keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I am weak, and you say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I am weak, and you say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe, yes, I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You have every failure, God. You have every victory. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I am weak, and you say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe.
Feels good to belong, doesn't it? We all look for belonging. And the message in the song that she sang is so perfect, I think. I don't feel like I do, but you say I belong. I didn't think I was going to be up here. Stephen called me yesterday afternoon, shared with me what was going on, and so here I am. And last week we touched a little bit on safety. And I want to talk a little bit about safety again. I have a funny story about safety. It's actually one of my most embarrassing moments. It's actually only happened, about 6 years ago. We were living here, and Drew loves baseball, and he's on Big Sky Little League. I think it was his second year of playing, and if you're not familiar with Little League, it's all volunteer. And so there's either a team mom or a team dad, and there's parents that help the coaches and they prepare the field. Billings is fairly well equipped, has lots of fields, and there's little lawnmowers that you drive around, and they have a rake behind it, and you can rake the infield and get it smooth, and you put out the bases and plug in the scoreboard, and on and on and on. So lots of volunteerism. And this specific day, they needed an outfield ump. And I know baseball, So I thought, well, how hard can this be? So I volunteered. And Little League, though, it's volunteer, but it's extremely competitive. So the coaches are usually the most competitive dads. Typically, that's the way it goes. And I'm competitive, but I also have this weird streak in me that, I don't want to hurt anybody else. So when I played sports, I liked to beat people. I liked to win. But if I was playing against my friends, sometimes I didn't try as hard because I felt bad. I'm bigger than everybody else. Basketball was one of those things that if I wanted to, I could usually pretty much dominate everyone else. So back to my story, I'm behind second base, and this kid hits a ball, and it goes just over the first baseman's head. There's a kid on first base, and he's standing there. He's kind of young, new, might have been his first year playing baseball. Wasn't sure if he was supposed to run or not, and the outfielder didn't catch the ball, so his coach is yelling at him, "Run!" So he's running towards second base, and meanwhile, the outfielder scoops up the ball and throws it to second, and I'm all in position. I'm getting there. I'm going to make this right call. And it's clear to me that this kid's going to be out, I mean, he got a late start. The outfielder the right field charged the ball. He got there, made a good throw, and the throw's coming in, and I'm like, okay, this kid's going to be out. So I'm standing there. Second baseman catches the ball, and he slides right under him and tags the base. And here's what I do. Out! Exactly. If you don't know signals, this means safe. Okay? this means out. I was all prepared that this kid was going to be out, and he slid under the tag and was safe. And then there was this awkward, all these competitive guys looking at me like, are you, for real? Like, we asked you? And the funny thing was I didn't play it off very well. I stood there for a minute and I said, well, he was safe. And everybody still looked at me like I was crazy. Retrospect, I wish I would have said, oh, hold on a second. Safe. Okay, now everything's computing, right? Being safe. What does it mean to be safe? Jesus was a safe person. Probably the best example of a safe person that you can find. And it irritated the Pharisees, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're hanging out with weirdos. I mean, the people that were salty, like tax collectors. And okay, maybe that doesn't translate real well. How about prostitutes? That translates, right? You're supposed to be our king, and you're hanging out with prostitutes. And the way he responded to people made them feel safe, right? Last week, I talked about what safe people aren't. And I put a list of things up, and Kaylee said, yeah, your slide, you couldn't read anything. So you probably don't know the list of things unsafe people are. Well, here they are. Unsafe people think they have it all together instead of admitting their weaknesses. Unsafe people are religious instead of spiritual. Unsafe people are defensive instead of open to feedback. Unsafe people are self-righteous instead of humble. Unsafe people only apologize instead of changing their behavior. Unsafe people avoid working on their problems instead of dealing with them. Unsafe people demand trust instead of earning it. Unsafe people believe they're perfect instead of admitting their faults. Unsafe people blame others instead of taking responsibility. Unsafe people lie instead of telling the truth. And finally, unsafe people are stagnant instead of growing. 11 traits of unsafe people. It's interesting to take a personal inventory, right? Is read through that list. Do I think I have it all together instead of admitting my weakness? Am I religious instead of spiritual? Am I defensive, or am I open to feedback? Am I humble? When I'm wrong, do I work on changing my behavior? Or do I just apologize? And then apologize again, and then apologize again. Am I working on my problems? Or do I avoid them? Do I demand trust instead of earning it? Am I willing to admit my faults? Do I take personal responsibility instead of blaming other people? Do I always tell the truth, and no matter how much it hurts? And what am I doing to grow? Or do I feel like I've arrived? You know, Ryan read a text from John 1:14, and it said, "The Word became flesh and lived for a while among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." There are 3 characteristics of a safe person. And Jesus exemplified all of these in John 1:14. First of all, he came and he dwelled, right? He spent time. He connected. And it wasn't just to connect with people that were most like him. And it wasn't with, the pomp and circumstance, right? Look, I'm king of the world, so who I want to spend time with is King Herod and, Pilate and, maybe the high priest. And then all cascade, things to them, and they can tell you what my kingdom's about. He dwelt with the common. He connected. He encamped with or resided with those that needed it and wanted him most. And there was this sense of, when you were with Jesus, at least when I read the Gospels, there was this, it was just good to be around him. You ever been around somebody that it's just good to be around them? You don't even have to talk sometimes, right? Oftentimes it's a spouse relationship. We don't have to do anything, we just be, right? Have you heard people say that? You ever felt a relationship like that? You just be. And it's natural. Whatever you're doing, it's comfortable. And Jesus was that kind of person, right? That's that dwelling that this safety talks about. Sometimes when we experience a lack of safety, we say things like, yeah, they're just not with me. Or I can't feel them the way I used to, or they seem so far away or so distant. You ever experienced that too? That second quality of safety, grace. Well, it's obvious how Jesus exemplified grace, right? You think of examples. Had every right to chastise the woman at the well, right? I mean, she wasn't even Jewish. Sounds funny, right? But in that day, it was such a big deal. And I guess, there still is this racial tension. It's real in our country today for sure. But, here she is at the well. It's the middle of the day. She's embarrassed. She's probably not well liked. So she's out at the well when everybody else is gone. And, he could have said, like, seriously? Like, 7 husbands? Can you get it together? Go see a shrink, Figure out your life and then come follow me. There's other examples of his grace. But that's an obvious one, right? When we're not accepted as we are in a relationship, it's not a safe relationship. We struggle with that, though, don't we? We say that God accepts us, but do we really believe it? Because we have to be perfect. We've been talking about that in Sabbath school class a little bit, right? Can God use us if we're not perfect? Grace is the opposite of requiring us to be different in order to be accepted. Grace says you're accepted just as you are, and that you will not be shamed or incur wrath for whatever you are experiencing. Earlier in the week, I called Stephen up. I was like, hey man, I have this weird, free lunch time. I never have lunch free because it's one of the times when we can meet with physicians. And so we have a lot of our meetings either between 6 and 8 a.m. from 12 to 1 or after 5. And so my schedule is really weird and oftentimes drawn out. But I had this free lunch time and felt the need to connect with Stephen on a couple of things. So we went down to Mia's Walk, and we were sitting there eating, and we were talking about, he really wished that Brian McMahon could have come here. And he would have liked to seen how Brian would have approached us and our community in a series. And just talking about the difference of culture and how communities respond up here in the north in Montana as opposed to where he grew up in Oklahoma. And the topic then went to this whole idea of truth and how we like to say in our church we have the truth, right? And if you believe the truth, then you're in. You believe the truth? You don't believe the truth? is saying that we have the truth approaching others from a safe perspective? Kay says no. I would tend to agree with her. It may be a simple shift to we have convictions. Jesus is truth, right? Anybody can have truth. You don't have to be an Adventist to have Jesus. You just have convictions. The way we interact with Jesus is we come to church on Sabbath. And that's our interpretation of how we read the Bible and feel like he wants us to interact with him. But that isn't the truth that gets you saved. And that's that last thing. Dwelling with us, giving us grace, and then experiencing truth. Jesus embodied truth. Truth implies many things, but in relationships, it implies honesty, being real with one another, and living out the truth of God. Many people think safe relationships are relationships that just give grace without confrontation. But as we see later, these relationships are ultimately destructive as well. We need people in our lives who will be honest with us, telling us where we're wrong and where we need to change. We need friends that walk according to the truth and live out principles of God with us. This does not mean that they're not accepting, but it means that in their acceptance of us, they are honest about our faults without condemning us. Galatians 6:1, brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore him gently, but watch yourselves, or you may be tempted. Being a safe people. I feel like it's the antithesis to what's going on in our country today, where we're trying to be polarized. Which side of the fence do you stand on? Are you a lefty or a righty? Do you say Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter? There's all kinds of things that are trying to separate us. And Jesus exemplified this ability through these three things of dwelling among, of extending grace, and of living truth, that we are all inclusive. We come together, not pull apart. And so that's all I have. Maybe not the most cohesive thing, but it's something I feel very passionately about, because in growing up in the Adventist church, my discovery of how to be safe has really transformed what I think my relationship with Christ looks like. And I think it's what it would transform the way we act as a church as well. If we acted like safe people consistently. And so it's something that I feel passionately about. It's something that I feel like I always need to be growing in, how to be a safer person. And I hope that you will join me in a journey of being a safe person in this community. Let's bow our heads together. God, thank you for your example, for living with us, for extending grace to us and saying, look, it doesn't matter what you did. I'm here for you, and I accept you. Even if you don't feel like you belong, you do. And then for saying, hey, here's the way, here's the truth. Come journey with me in this thing of truth, and I'll walk with you, and I'll convict you. And then live up to your convictions. So may we not check boxes. May we stop saying, look, we have the truth, and you should join us. May it be a paradigm shift where we say, look, I accept you the way you are, and come journey with us. May we find safety in these walls as a church, and may that safety not be just internal. May we externally share safety with others as we discover it here. In Jesus' name, amen.